Okay, I'm going to show you all about objects. So in iBooks Author, everything in the middle of the menu bar is an object. That's the text box, the shapes, tables, charts, and widgets drop-downs. Also, photos and videos are objects, and a few other elements like HTML snippets and interactive features are also objects. And basically what that means is that there's certain things you can do to any kind of object, and so once you know how to do them with one type of object, you'll be applying those same manipulations to every object. So I'm just going to create a simple shape as a sample object, and this is pretty representative. It's got handles on every side, so we can resize. We can resize horizontally. We can resize vertically. We can resize freeform. You're seeing the height and width. Then if I move it with the mouse, you're seeing XY coordinates. You're seeing grid lines, so we can snap it to the dead center of the page. I can move it over and still on the vertical axis, and now it's snapped to dead center of the left column. So this gives you pretty precise control, and it's a little hard to see, but you can really feel it with the mouse, just how much it sticks in these positions, and that's an enormous aid to positioning objects just where you want them. You can also move with the keyboard. Each click of the arrow keys is 1 pixel. You can move up and down. If you hold down Shift, each click of the arrow key is 10 pixels. And we're just going to leave this object here for a moment so we can show you a few other features of objects. So up here in the right below the menu bar, we see where we can change the color of our object. We can change the opacity so it's partly transparent. You can give it a drop shadow. You can give it a border. So we'll just leave a standard border, but we'll make it a lot thicker, and we'll give that border dark blue color or medium blue color. So there's all those things you can do to an object. And then you'll see here inline, floating, and anchored. Well, what's that? Well, actually, an easier way to see those options is if we go to the inspector palette and go to the wrap inspector, and we've got those same options here with a little bit more explanation. So inline, that means the object moves with the text. So if I just start typing random text here, it's pushing the object down the page. Just hit undo. Now I'll select the object again, and I'll click floating, and I'll do the same thing. Just typing random text. Wait. We have to disable object causes wrap for this demonstration. I apologize. With the transparency, you can see that the object is just floating right on top of the text. And another wonderful thing about floating is you can position the object anywhere on the page. Unlike an inline, you can't quite do that. There's sort of more limits to where it'll go. It won't just go anywhere. Just hitting undo a few times to get rid of that text. Then there is anchored, which I'm going to move. This is the anchor, this bullseye shape. And if I move that over there, and then actually I'm going to move that here, and then I copy this entire paragraph, you'll be able to see what's going to happen. So if I paste in another paragraph, paste in another, the object just moved. So what's happening is the object is staying at a particular location on a page, but which page it stays on is determined by where the anchor is. So it's moving with the anchor, but it almost looks like it looks like floating, but it can move to a different page as the anchor gets pushed along. So that also is pretty handy. Now all these change a little bit if you hit object causes wrap, which was checked a second ago. I unchecked it. And basically, if we, let's say, change it to floating, and actually object causes wrap only applies to floating or anchored, I should note that. But let's say I stick it in the middle of this page, and in the middle of that block of text. And you can see really easily that the icons pretty much just represent exactly what's happening. The text is on 3 sides, the text is on all sides, the text is on 3 sides but at different 3 sides, the text will go on 3 sides, and which side it's on is determined by which side has more space. And then finally, text is only on 2 sides. So those are those options. I should also note that only inline objects appear in portrait view. So if you go to portrait view, our floating object didn't appear. If we make it anchored, it also doesn't appear. If we make it inline, there it is. It does appear. Now, theoretically, according to the documentation with iBooks Author, if you go to the widget inspector and you add a title or a caption, which I actually need to change this out of inline to do, if you add a title or a caption, it should appear in portrait. For me, this does not work consistently. I think it's some sort of form of bug, but in theory, that should work. In theory, that's how you get anchored and floating objects to appear in portrait. So that's objects.